In the heart of a Goma community, where the air was always rich with the scent of freshly baked bread, lived a woman named Martha. Fiercely independent and in her mid-30s, she had built a thriving bakery from nothing, turning flour and fire into a legacy. While other women her age dreamed of marriage and romance, Martha had different ambitions. She had seen love break too many women, watched as they sacrificed their dreams for fleeting promises. She refused to be one of them. Then came Jude, a young man in his early 20s, full of raw energy and ambition. Life had been ruthless to him. He hustled through odd jobs just to put food on the table for his mother and younger siblings. Yet, despite his struggles, Jude carried an irresistible charm, the kind that made people stop and listen. The younger girls in Ogoma adored him, whispered about him, longed for his attention. But to everyone's shock, Jude's heart didn't chase the girls who swooned over him. It belonged to Martha. It all began when Jude stopped by her bakery one evening, looking for leftover bread he could buy at a cheaper rate. Martha, noticing his tired eyes and empty hands, gave him a fresh loaf, free of charge. "You don't have to do this," he said, humbled. "I know," she replied, "but I want to." That simple act of kindness lit a spark in Jude's heart. He began visiting more often, first for bread, then just to be around her. He would hang around the bakery, offering to help knead the dough, stack the trays, and even clean up at the end of the day. One evening, as they walked home together after closing the bakery, Jude turned to her and said, "Martha, I admire you." She chuckled. "Admire me? For what?" "For being strong, for building something for yourself. You are unlike any woman I know." Martha shook her head. "I had no other choice. I had to survive." "Then let me be a part of that survival," he said softly. Martha froze. She was older, more experienced, and knew that love, especially with a younger man, was a risk. But Jude was persistent. He ignored the taunts from his friends who mocked him for chasing an older woman. He stood by her side, helping in any way he could, proving his loyalty every day. Eventually, Martha let herself believe in love. She let herself believe in him. Their love flourished despite whispers from the town. But Martha knew Jude deserved more. He was intelligent, hard-working, and full of untapped potential. "Jude, have you ever thought of learning a skill or going to school?" she asked, one night as they sat outside her house. "Of course I have," he admitted. "But where will I get the money?" "I will help you," she said firmly. Jude hesitated. "You've done so much already." Martha took his hands in hers. "I believe in you. I want to see you become the man I know you can be." And so, she made sacrifices. She worked extra hours, woke up before dawn to bake, and took private catering jobs just to raise enough money to send Jude to a trade school where he could learn furniture making. Every month, she sent him money for his fees, tools, and daily expenses. "I don't deserve you," Jude would often say. "Just promise me one thing," she told him. "Promise me that no matter what happens, you will never leave me." Jude held her close. "I promise. One day, I will finish my training, get a job, and later set up my own workshop and build us a good life." For years, she lived on that promise. Jude excelled in his training and soon got a good job with a prestigious furniture company. Martha was overjoyed. But then, something changed. Jude became distant. At first, he blamed it on work. "I'm busier now," he would say, whenever she asked why he no longer visited as often. "I have responsibilities." Martha understood. But as time passed and months later, his messages became fewer, his presence almost non-existent. Then the rumors started. One evening, an old friend stopped by her bakery with a concerned look. "Martha," she said hesitantly, "I saw Jude today on my visit to the city, with another woman." Martha's heart pounded. "Who?" "She's young, beautiful, and they seemed close." Martha refused to believe it. Jude would never betray her. He had promised. But doubt lingered in her heart. Determined to see the truth for herself, she traveled to the city where Jude now lived. She wanted to surprise him, believing that seeing her would remind him of their love. She arrived at his workplace and followed directions to the company cafeteria. When she stepped inside, she saw him instantly seated at a round table, laughing with his colleagues. He looked different, more confident, more polished, the man she had sacrificed everything for. Her heart swelled with pride until their eyes met. Jude's smile vanished. Panic flashed across his face. Before he could react, one of his colleagues noticed her and asked, "Jude, someone is here for you. Who is she?" Silence. Martha took a step forward, waiting for him to introduce her. Instead, he turned back to his colleagues and, in a shaky voice, said the words that shattered her soul. She's my mother." The words hit her like a slap. The room fell silent. Then came the whispers. "Wow, Jude, your mother looks so young. She must have had you at a really young age." Laughter rippled through the room, but Martha felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet and also wished that something would make her vanish from the spot where she was rooted. Her hands trembled, her throat burned, but she refused to break. Without a word, she turned and walked away. That night, Jude called. She almost didn't answer, but she needed to know why. "Jude," she whispered. "Why?" Jude sighed. "You should understand. I can't be seen with someone like you. My colleagues wouldn't understand our relationship." Tears streamed down her face. "But I sacrificed everything for you." "Martha, let's not be emotional," he said dismissively. "We had something, but that was in the past. I was young then and could not take reasonable decisions. It was childish love." She felt her chest tighten. "Childish love," she repeated in disbelief. "You swore you would build a life with me." Jude sighed impatiently. "That was then. I have moved on. You should too." Her heart broke into pieces. "Are you saying it's over?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, Martha, it's over." And just like that, the years of love, sacrifice, and hope were crushed with a single phone call and within minutes. For weeks, she barely left her room. She lost the will to bake. She refused to eat, stopped working, and allowed herself to drown in heartbreak. She had built her entire future around Jude, only for him to toss her aside like she was nothing. While she suffered, Jude moved on with his life. Not long after breaking up with her, he proposed to Boma the kind of woman he believed suited his new image. A few months later, they had a grand wedding. Family, friends, and colleagues attended, celebrating the union of the perfect couple. Jude felt untouchable. His career was flourishing, and he was living the life he had always dreamed of. He never thought about Martha. To him, she was a closed chapter. Years later, Jude had become one of the most respected employees at the company. He brought ideas for modern furniture designs. His hard work and dedication earned him recognition from the CEO, Manga, a man known for rewarding excellence. One morning during a company-wide meeting, Manga made an important announcement. "Some of you have performed exceptionally well, and soon we will be announcing promotions. It will be a double celebration because I will also be introducing someone very special, my wife, who will be joining us as the new Director of Operations." Excited murmurs spread through the room. Some of the female staff who hoped Manga may look towards them for possible relationship were shocked to hear the announcement, as such opportunity had become effectively closed. Jude smirked. His name was on the promotion list. He could already picture himself as a top executive, but nothing could have prepared him for what came next. The doors swung open, and in walked Martha. Jude felt his breath hitch. His vision blurred for a second. This was not the same woman he had abandoned. Martha was glowing. Dressed in an elegant brown gown, her confidence radiated through the room. Her skin was smooth, her hair neatly styled, her entire presence commanding attention. Jude's hands trembled on the table. His mouth went dry, as his problem had just emerged from nowhere. "No, this can't be happening." Manga proudly introduced her to the staff. "Meet my wife, Martha. She will be overseeing key decisions in the company, including personnel and promotions." Jude's heart dropped amidst the applause of the other staff, as he could barely clap or think reasonably. Then, Martha's eyes met his amidst the crowd. For a brief moment, she studied him with a cold, unreadable expression. Then she simply looked away, as if he didn't exist. Jude gripped his chair. His name was on the promotion list. Would she? His worst fears were confirmed moments later. As the list was handed to her, Martha ran her fingers over the names. Then she paused. "Before we proceed, I need to review these candidates again," she said calmly. The room fell silent. Jude felt a cold chill down his spine. "She's delaying my promotion," he realized. Manga, oblivious to the silent battle unfolding, nodded. "That's fair. We want only the best in leadership." Jude's world spun. Martha now had the power to control his fate, and she wasn't done yet. After the event, Jude hurried toward her. He had to talk to her, explain, beg. But before he could speak, Manga appeared beside her. Jude stopped, stepping back awkwardly. Then, to his horror, Martha spoke first. "Darling," she said sweetly, resting a hand on Manga's arm. "Do you remember the man I once told you about? The one who betrayed me after I gave him everything? The one who left me so heartbroken that I nearly died of excessive thoughts?" Manga's expression hardened. "Yes, I remember." Martha turned to face Jude, and with a slow, cruel smile pointed at him. "Here is he." Jude nearly collapsed. His knees buckled as though whirlwind had suddenly descended on him. Manga's eyes darkened as he took a slow, menacing step toward Jude. "Are you saying that this boy was the one who mistreated you and did all those things to you?" Manga's voice was dangerously low. Martha nodded. Jude opened his mouth, but no words came out. His entire body was trembling. "But don't worry," Martha continued. "He's not important anymore." Manga exhaled, shaking his head in disgust. "Pathetic." Then Martha turned to Jude, her voice firm and final. "You must do your job professionally. I will not tolerate incompetence in this company." Jude nodded stiffly and continuously like a kindergarten while rooted to the spot. His heart pounded so loudly in his chest that he could barely hear anything else. As Manga and Martha walked away, Jude felt like the ground had swallowed him whole. That evening, Jude returned home a wreck. His hands were shaking as he fumbled with the keys. Boma noticed immediately. "Jude, what's wrong?" Jude sank into a chair, exhaling sharply. "It's Martha." Boma frowned. "What about her?" Jude clenched his jaw. "She's the CEO's wife." Boma's eyes widened. "Excuse me?" Jude ran a hand down his face. "She's married to my boss." Boma slowly sat down, staring at him as though she had seen a ghost. "So let me get this straight," she said. The woman you used and discarded, the same woman who sacrificed everything for you, is now the wife of the most powerful man in your company." Jude nodded miserably. Boma exhaled, shaking her head. "This is bad." Jude swallowed. "You think I don't know that? I am aware." Boma folded her arms. "You need to resign." Jude sat up. "Resign? Are you insane?" "What choice do you have?" Boma snapped. "She's your superior now. You humiliated her, and now she holds all the power. Do you really think she'll let you succeed?" Jude refused to believe it. He had worked too hard to let this ruin him. "I can fix this," he muttered. Boma scoffed. "Fix what, Jude? You made your bed. Now lie on it." Jude stared at his wife. For the first time, he felt the weight of his betrayal crushing him. He had discarded the woman who built him. And now she had the power to destroy him. And she would. Back at the office, Jude tried to act normal, but nothing was the same anymore. His colleagues sensed something was off. The once confident Jude, who used to walk with his head high and chest puffed, now moved around cautiously, avoiding eye contact, barely speaking. When spoken to, he answered like he had throat issue. The once lovely and prestigious furniture company had suddenly become a dreaded ground to Jude. Then the real torture began. Martha made sure he felt her new status in the company. She gave him the most humiliating tasks, fetching documents for junior staff, carrying refreshments during meetings, and even arranging office supplies, like an intern. Whenever he walked past, people whispered. Some pitied him, others laughed. One afternoon, during a major company event, Martha approached him in the break room, holding a tray of drinks. "Jude, be useful and serve the guests." Jude looked at her, hoping she was joking. She wasn't. He took the tray with shaky hands, feeling a lump in his throat. Jude, the once promising star of the company, was now reduced to serving drinks like a waiter. As he moved from table to table, he heard the murmurs. "Isn't that Jude? The one who was supposed to get promoted? Ah, see how life turned out for him. He must have offended someone powerful." He avoided looking at anyone. His shame was too heavy. Martha sat in the front row with Manga, sipping her drink, watching him with a victorious smile. Weeks later, and Jude reached his breaking point. He had stopped eating properly. He barely slept. His confidence was completely destroyed. At home, things weren't any better. Boma, once his biggest supporter, had lost all respect for him. "Jude, I told you to resign," she snapped one evening. He sat on the couch, head in his hands. "I can't just quit, Boma. I need this job." She folded her arms. "Need it? Or need to prove something to yourself?" Jude had no answer. She scoffed. "Look at yourself. You're miserable. That woman is humiliating you every day and you just sit there and take it. You deserve this, you know." Jude's head snapped up. "Excuse me?" Boma didn't flinch. "You heard me. You built your success on a woman's sacrifices and threw her away like trash. Now, she's the one holding your future in her hands. That's called karma." Jude's jaw clenched. "So, what? You're enjoying this?" Boma sighed. "No, Jude. I'm just saying you should have seen this coming, and I had warned you to resign, but you refused. I am a woman, like she is, and cannot be happy with such humiliations from her, even though it is justifiable. We are talking about running errands. Do you know what she would do to you next? She may transfer you to the toilet to be cleaning there." Jude stood up abruptly. "Enough." He stormed out of the house, needing air, needing freedom from the walls that felt like they were suffocating him. Jude didn't know where he was going. He just walked past busy streets, past shops, past everything that reminded him of his former life. Then, as if fate was determined to remind him of his past sins, he found himself standing outside a small restaurant. The same restaurant where he had taken Martha for cheap dates when he was struggling in the Furniture Training Institute. Memories hit him like a slap. He had sat at one of those tables, holding her hand, promising her a bright future. "You're the love of my life, Martha. When I make it, I'll never forget what you did for me." Lies. All lies. Jude let out a bitter laugh. He had thrown away the woman who had loved him the most, and now he had lost everything. He was now at Martha's mercy. Tears burned his eyes, but he blinked them back. He wouldn't cry. Not here. Not yet. But one thing was clear. Jude was no longer the man he used to be, and he never would be again. Jude stood outside the restaurant for a long time, staring at nothing, the weight of everything pressed down on his chest like a heavy stone. The world around him moved on. Cars honked, people laughed, businesses thrived, but his life? His life had crumbled to dust. Finally, he turned around and dragged himself back home, dreading the conversation waiting for him. The moment Jude stepped inside, Boma was waiting, arms crossed, face tight. "Where did you go?" she demanded. Jude sighed. "I just needed air." "Air?" Boma sneered. "You're running from the truth, Jude. That woman owns you now. And you know what's funny? You can't do a damn thing about it." Jude's nostrils flared. "Can you stop rubbing it in my face?" Boma stepped closer. "Oh, so you don't like hearing the truth? Maybe you should have thought about that before dumping the woman who helped you when you had nothing." Jude clenched his fists. "I didn't come here to argue." Boma shook her head, her voice calmer, but laced with disappointment. "You don't get it, do you? You're sinking, Jude. And if you don't act fast, you'll drown." Jude rubbed his temples. "I'll settle this." Boma laughed bitterly. "Settle it? How? You can't even look that woman in the eye without shaking like a leaf." Jude said nothing. Boma sighed. "Listen, I won't allow you get destroyed by that woman, and I won't sit around watching you turn into a miserable wreck. So figure it out fast." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Jude standing in the middle of the living room, completely alone. The next few weeks at work were torture. Martha didn't need to fire him, she was breaking him piece by piece. Whenever he submitted a report, it was rejected. Whenever he tried to take the lead in meetings, she cut him off. One afternoon, during a board meeting, Jude finally mustered the courage to speak. "Ma, I'd like to suggest..." Martha didn't even look up. Jude's voice died in his throat as the room moved on without him. People who once respected him now treated him like a ghost. Nobody wanted to be associated with the man who had fallen from grace. And the worst part, the promotion list was finally released. Jude's name was missing. A younger colleague, one who had been working under him, had taken the position he once believed was his. He stormed into Martha's office that evening, anger overriding his fear. "You took my promotion," he stated in protest. Martha looked up slowly, her expression calm. "Your promotion?" Martha leaned back, folding her arms. "Oh, Jude, you're still so naive. I know you had wondered how I suddenly appeared in your company and became the wife of the CEO. Let me briefly inform you that when you abandoned me, my life was in a total mess. I could not open the bakery anymore and did not attempt baking. I could not eat, talk to anyone, and avoided coming out of my room. I was consumed with excessive thought over what you did to me. One day I summoned courage to go to the bakery and slumped in front of my house, and my neighbors rushed me to the hospital. When I became conscious, I was informed that Manga came to visit his sick cousin who was on admission in our village hospital. That he informed the hospital to do all they could to keep me healthy. When he visited me the next day, he informed me that he is from our village and that he came back to visit his aged parents. That was how our journey of matrimony began. "I am sorry about everything," Jude stated. "You're doing this on purpose. You're trying to destroy me by promoting my subordinate above me." Martha smiled. "Destroy you? No, Jude. I'm simply returning the favor." Jude's breathing was heavy. Martha stood up and walked around the desk until she was inches from him. "I want you to understand what it feels like to be powerless," she said softly. Jude swallowed hard. Martha chuckled. "Look at you. You were once so confident, so sure of yourself, and now you're just a shell of the man you used to be." She walked to the door and opened it. "Now, get out of my office. And next time, think twice before betraying the wrong woman." Jude stood there, shaking, before forcing himself to leave. He had never felt more defeated. The next day, Jude came to work, walked straight to Martha's office, and tendered his resignation letter to her table, and left. He had finally freed himself from the agony in the company. He had paid part of the price for betrayal, and had left the torment that constantly faced him at work. This story from Motherland Tales teaches a lesson on keeping promises when made and treating others kindly. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment to our channel. Also turn on your notification button so that whenever we post a new video, you will be the first to be notified. Please share with us what you have learnt via the comment section. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.